Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking your time out of your busy lunch schedule today to spend time with us here to talk with folks about climate resiliency and environmental justice communities. My name is James Thompson. I'm here moderating a panel of some awesome folks in communities around the state of New Jersey that are talking about resiliency projects and how their communities have been responding to climate change and finding solutions to deal with mitigating a lot of different challenges that folks in different communities are facing around climate change. I'd like to thank the Center for Cooperative Media for hosting this event. Melissa Miles, who is also from the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance, the Ironbound Community Corporation, Friends of Metcalf Park, and also Center for Environmental Transformation. But before we get started, I kind of wanted to talk really briefly about why we're here and the purpose of this webinar. So we want to really highlight environmental justice organizations, allies and partners and collaborators who are doing work to address the climate crisis. As we know, climate change is real and it's impact our communities, particularly frontline and underserved communities. More extreme weather events, including heavier rainfalls, more extreme heat in the summertime, more frequent flooding, and other weather challenges and infrastructure challenges as well. One of the things that the demand for energy and electricity has driven the phenomena in communities across the state, and let alone the globe, in our state, let alone the globe. Some communities, more affluent or not, are better prepared than others. So community stakeholders have been working with municipalities, cities, regions, and planners to take climate action interest to plan and execute community-driven strategies on how to address climate change and make communities more responsive, resilient to mitigate challenges such as local flooding and some of the things that I highlighted. Now, one of the reasons why we're doing it is to really talk about the challenges that we've had around funding and reductions in funding, particularly at the federal level, for said resiliency projects and programs. With federal cuts from the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 and other infrastructure programs being cut or eliminated altogether, local stakeholders and environmental justice organizations are faced with tackling how they will continue to adjust and adapt the ever-changing dynamic of funding for local climate resiliency initiatives. And one thing I want to talk about briefly is the pending Climate Superfund Act, which would be a very unique opportunity, make polluters pay for the damage that climate change has caused over the course of the past, 20 some odd years. We're going to get into that a little bit deeper, but this is a big opportunity to be able to talk about that. The other thing I also want to highlight as well is about $86 billion in resiliency projects have been identified by the New Jersey Planning Authority, Transportation Planning Authority, and New Jersey DEP, and also the Army Corps of Engineers as well. So with that being said, that is just the tip of the iceberg. There's billions of dollars that we need to really adapt and deal with some of the challenges we face in our communities. Before we dive into it and really give folks an answer, to really highlight and showcase the work that's either working now or has happened, or projects that are shovel ready and ready to go. Melissa Miles, I can't see right now if you're on, but
she's here.
James.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you for that intro. Hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Kind of going in and out a little bit.
Oh, thank you for the great intro, James. You said all.
Thank you. So moving forward, we will dive straight in. First, we will have Jon Compton, the Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Transformation based in Camden. Jon, welcome.
Go for it, Jon. You're on mute.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. And tell you a little bit about what we have been working on in Camden. Okay. So I'm Jon. I work at Center for Environmental Transformation. We're a small environmental organization in South Camden. And the issue that we focused on in the past year in the city is flooding. And flooding affects many cities. We have three different types of flooding that we looked at. Flooding caused by rain that can't drain to the river, flooding that's caused by the river overtopping its banks, and flooding caused by sewer backups. All three of those types of flooding happen in Camden, and like a lot of old cities, the sewer backups is especially harmful because it's a combined sewer system and that floodwater contains sewage. So at the image that you're looking at here is kind of a typical heavy rainstorm, the aftermath in one of the communities in Camden. And you can see bubbling up in the middle of the image. That's water that's coming up out of the sewer grate. So that's all contaminated water at that intersection. So we knew we had a problem with flooding. What we wanted to do is project how much is this going to be a problem in the future and what parts of the city should we focus our efforts on if we want to mitigate flooding impacts moving forward. So we were fortunate enough to get funding from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. And so we brought in some experts. We hired a team of planners and engineers and policy experts, and we were able to crunch data about the waterways that surround Camden, rainfall patterns, and really look at where is flooding occurring in the city and where is it going to get worse when sea levels rise. So this image is a little small, but it's showing you the outputs from a rather sophisticated computer model that our engineers put together. And so this looks at the surface contours of the entire city and the shape of the rivers, and then it can lay down precipitation events on top of that, and then show you in different scenarios where is the flooding going to occur. And I know it's a little small to see, but if we zoom in to one portion of the city, this happens to be the worst affected, flood affected neighborhood in the city, which is right in the middle along the Cooper River, which runs right down the center of the city. And this neighborhood experiences, from our model, it shows all three types of flooding occurring often at the same time. So that's the river overtopping its banks, water that can't drain to the river, and sewer backups. And so through our project, we were able to do extensive community outreach and go out and meet with people in various neighborhoods that our model showed were affected by flooding and ask them, what is your experience? What do you see happening when heavy rain occurs? Is our model correct? What type of impacts are you seeing in your neighborhoods? And what type of changes would you like to see? What are the flooding impacts that are most urgent to you and your family? And through that process, we were able to come up with a list of priorities that we put together. And when we published the results of our work, it included the results from our flood model, recommendations from the engineers, and then also the community priorities. And putting that all together, we focused on this Marlton neighborhood as the highest opportunity area and came up with a set of 11 projects in this neighborhood, kind of focused around this underutilized park that's right along the banks of the Cooper River. And this park has, for historical reasons, was never actually completed. It's not easy to access, and it needs a lot of development. And if we use the information that we generated from our design process around flooding, any future developments can incorporate water management into that development process, then we can put together a series of projects throughout the community. If they all address a little part of the flooding picture, we can make a very large impact when we add all of those projects together. So what you're seeing on the left image is this is the water trying to come in to the neighborhood from the river, from left to right, and it's water that's trying to drain out and is having trouble getting out from right to left. So the park, if you scoop out the park and make a series of basins, you can collect that water and temporarily store it during the rain event and then let it slowly drain to the river after that rain event is over. And at the same time, if you raise the bank of the river and make a pathway that is about 4 feet off the ground, you're able to block most of the coastal flooding that's coming from the river. And so we actually can address both flooding issues at the same time. And this is copying strategies that have been used successfully in other flood affected communities around the world.
John,
And
really
so,
quick,
yes.
really quickly. So, and thank you for this. This is great. This is a wonderful presentation. So can you talk a little bit about, how the partners were involved, like who was involved, what community organizations or, other collaborators or associates that were vital in making this happen?
Sure. We had a couple different committees that we put together. We had a group of experts on the technical advisory panel, and that included people from city government, people at the county level, the county municipal utilities authority. We had people from the state level, Department of Environmental Protection. We had academics from a couple institutions, and so they had that was the technical panel. And then we had the team that we hired, the consultants, that included a team from Drexel University, design firm from Penn. And then we had a community had input at a decision-making level of the steering committee, and that included some regional nonprofits and a lot of community members. But we ended up communicating with folks that had done work around flooding in the city throughout the years and drew upon work that many other organizations had already done in the city and informed our process. And this is an image, this is my last slide. This is an image showing a rendering of what the park might look like once it becomes a floodable park, which was the concept that we developed as our solution for this neighborhood.
Thanks, John. This is really beautiful. First of all, I love the imagery. It looks great. Someone for myself being from South Jersey and spending a lot of time in the area, it wouldn't look recognizable. So it's, definitely would be, something that would be great in the future. Can you talk a little bit about, so you mentioned there were 3 separate projects. Can you talk a little bit about how important, why it's important to make sure that there are dollars and funding available, and how the community itself has really, even if they continue to be involved with this process, and like what that looks like moving forward?
Well, we learned a lot during this process. We learned that residents really have a lot of impact in their day-to-day lives when it floods, and that they understand, especially with the sewer backups, with the contaminated water, that this is really an important issue that people want to see addressed. We also learned that there are many development projects that are moving forward in the city, and most of those projects are not considering the worsening effects of flooding into the future due to sea level rise. That's just not something that's being factored into development projects. And it's at the design stage where these impacts need to be addressed. It's way more expensive to try to incorporate flood defense once development projects have already been completed. So we have an opportunity to develop in a much more intelligent manner that protects the residents in the neighborhood if we can from now on incorporate water management into any development project in a flood affected community.
Okay. And so one of the things that I also mentioned at the top in the beginning was this, New Jersey, there's estimates that New Jersey is going to need a significant amount of dollars to really be able to deal with this, like on, just holistically, we're talking like 86 billion, which is pretty decent chunk of money. Is there an idea of like, in a perfect world, like, is there an idea of like what type of funding and dollars would be required to at least to do either a range of one, even all 11 possible projects?
So we sized our projects in $10 million chunks. So if we were to do all 11 projects, it would be over $100 million. But we sized each project to meet about a $10 million budget for construction.
Great. Thanks. So we will continue. Well, John, thank you for your presentation. We will go ahead. Is there any closing thoughts before we move on to Kweli?
Not for me.
Thanks. Moving forward, so Kweli Campbell, representative from Friends of Metcalf Park in Orange, will be talking about the project that they actually completed and also in the process of looking to continue in the future as well. Kweli, the floor is all yours.
Hi. Can I be heard?
You are heard
doing a sound
loud
check.
and clear. Loud
Okay.
and clear.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hi, my name is Kweli Campbell. I am representing the Friends of Metcalf Park. We are a volunteer community led organization in Orange, New Jersey. In particular, we're in the Valley, Historic Valley section of Orange, New Jersey, which has a long history of industrialism in New Jersey. It's a part of the valley is known as a flood zone. We're seeing this flooding expand to other areas of the valley. Our park is to sort of paint the landscape. It's located it's bounded by Orange and West Orange. Right behind the park, we have a waterway, the east branch of the Rahway River, that flows from West Orange down into Orange, and then from Orange over to South Orange, and it goes all the way over to Milburn and also the Rahway, New Jersey, which recently we found out it's their drinking water. And so that's behind the park. And then across the street from the park is our water treatment center, which is currently undergoing becoming a PFAS and a lead treatment center. So whereas 4 years ago, our organization has started as an organization that was really just kind of concentrated on cleaning and stewarding our local park. It has vastly grown to us trying to understand water and the impact of water, not only on the park, but the surrounding community. And so you're seeing pictures of flooding in the park, the Rahway, the east branch of the Rahway River behind the park, and then also some flooding on our basketball court, and then also flooding in the street area. And so in the course of us seeing this, residents, including myself, have really been kind of asking the questions about what do we do. And, you know, unfortunately, listening to Jon earlier testimony, we haven't had the expertise needed to really kind of, you know, delve deep and find out, you know, what are the critical issues and you know, what should we be doing infrastructure wise? But we did, you know, and we did have sort of access to advocates in our neighboring communities about the use of trees and planting more trees, and just realizing that you know, we don't have not a lot of trees, and we could use trees, and that could help with some you know, flooding issues. And so with that in mind, advocate from South Orange had introduced us to New Jersey Tree Foundation, and they came on site last year. We have an annual I Love My Park Day, and we coordinated with our DPW, with the New Jersey Tree Foundation, with our local school, Forestry School. We had a few nonprofits and community organizations who wanted to be on hand to help us. And we all went out and we planted 13 trees around Metcalf Park. We learned about tree infrastructure. We learned about how it can help with flood mitigation. we're taking care of the trees. We learned how to prune trees and care for these trees and name the trees. And so we had, it was a very intergenerational experience, and a very educational one. Whereas, we're now looking to see how we can expand on this in terms of further curriculum, further planting. As a result of our efforts, the City of Orange did apply to get a grant to install more trees throughout the city. We're also, looking and hoping that we can do additional tree planting, but also enhanced tree pits we're learning about that can actually absorb water. Also, the East Branch of the Rahway River is fenced, and we don't really understand. We see how it's being used in other townships in terms of how they're doing sloped pits, and we really want to kind of delve deeper into what else we can do to sort of re-envision and reimagine this waterway behind the park. Does it need to be fenced in? Can we do some other, soil projects of mitigation and plant, we're hearing about planting forestation that can help with absorbing water. And so these are the conversations that we're hoping to have and collaborate. We are residents, we're not experts. And so we're really, hoping to, on our ordinance, we have something called an environmental commission, and we really want to hope to stand that up so that we can get the proper education and care and start to do some of these things that will mitigate flooding in our community. Yeah, I'll stop there. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling and I don't want to, but there's a lot. We are, designated an overburdened community. And so whereas the flooding mitigation is one issue, we also are tackling and have been discussing the PFAS and lead remediation that's expected to happen in this treatment center that's across the street. And so that's another conversation that we also are, have been having this year as well.
Thanks, Kweli. So are you at liberty to talk a little bit more about the PFAS in the treatment plant?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, yes. So we, about a month ago, we brought in the Environmental Protection Network as well as the We Act Environmental Organization, and they've done some training with us about PFAS. So they came into our community nearby to the treatment center and kind of, gave us a real great overview and understanding of PFAS and some of the things that we should be doing. And so this is at an integral part because recently our water rates have increased because the City of Orange, they need money to build this treatment center. And so a lot of residents don't understand the connection between that and their water rates and their water bills. And so they are seeing an increase in their water bills. And so we're next working on, working with these organizations to look at possibly doing a rate case campaign because as you had mentioned earlier, we are in a community where there were, known industrial sites and, if there's a connection between, that and there is a connection, right? We need to understand why do we have to take the burden on paying for this if there are, known polluters that, cause this. And so that's something that we are having conversations currently about and learning about. And so, yeah.
Thank you, Kweli. Thank you, Kweli. So moving along, and just note, we're going to have a question and answer session after the next presentation, just to make sure folks have an opportunity. So if, towards when the Q&A starts, there'll be an opportunity for folks to put their questions into the chat. But moving forward, Alejandra Torres is with the Ironbound Community Corporation out of Newark. She will be talking about the work that they've been doing as well. Welcome, Alejandra.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone. I'm Alejandra Torres. I'm with the Ironbound Community Corporation, which is a community-based organization that has existed since 1969, serving the East Ward, the Ironbound in Newark and the greater Newark area. We provide direct services and also do advocacy and organizing around environmental justice issues. So I'm in the environmental justice department. And so like my previous panelists who gave wonderful presentations, I too will be speaking about environmental injustice and working towards moving for environmental justice. So next slide. Yes. So I'm going to do a storytelling approach because storytelling is often how we organize, right? And tell real people's stories. So the story begins with Newark, New Jersey, right? So if we just like close our eyes and we zoom in to a specific neighborhood in Newark, we get to the Ironbound. In the Ironbound, community members live with heavy industrial pollution every single day. So you'll see here, like the Ironbound, I'm not sure that you're able to see my mouse, but the Ironbound is surrounded by purples, right? And so that shows you the heavy industrial pollution. So we're talking about warehouses, the ports, the airport, truck diesel fumes, constantly moving goods. We're talking about power plants, incinerators. This surrounds people's homes. In fact, 1 in 4 children have asthma. And the majority of the Ironbound is composed of low-income people of color immigrants. In addition to all this heavy industrial pollution, we also have, as is happening in other cities in New Jersey, extreme weather events, right? We have heat waves becoming much more common, which obviously just poses health risks to community, but also adds additional stress on the already strained electrical grid. Right, we have an urban heat island effect as well, which is exacerbated by the lack of green spaces, a lot of impervious surfaces. So this further intensifies heat-related challenges. Flooding is also a very similar critical issue for the Ironbound, right? Because of frequent flooding due to stormwater backup, combined sewer overflow, and just the general geographical vulnerability of the area. So flooding, of course, we know damages property and infrastructure, but also poses severe health risks, right? By exposing residents to waterborne diseases and contaminated water. So if we take this heavy industrial pollution compounded by heat waves, flooding, we're seeing an overall decline in the community's health and safety, and especially the most vulnerable, like children and the elderly, are at even higher risks. So intense climate change is already being acutely felt by Ironbound communities. Then we have intense flooding, right, from Superstorm Sandy. Thank you, Joe, which was a call to action, right? And so this call to action really elicits a response, right? An immediate response towards building climate resilience. And here we see 2 different sides of the story. How do we build climate resilience, right? On the one hand, we have an iteration of typical environmentally racist decisions, right? It's typically the same overburdened communities that have high health and environmental stressors being the ones impacted and bearing the burden of these decisions on a municipal or state level. And then we have another story, right, full of hope and creativity that's community-centered vision. And as you can imagine, ICC's story is the latter. So in this slide, you will see an example of the first story of climate resilience. No, if you could go back, sorry, we'll stay on the previous slide. So we have the Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission, which is the largest wastewater treatment plant on the East Coast, unsurprisingly, in the Ironbound, and it flooded during Sandy. And it was, of course, catastrophic, right? But PVSC took several steps to prevent another disaster from happening. So you'll see on the bottom picture, they constructed flood walls, and PCNG also invested billions of dollars into infrastructure hardening and elevating substations to ensure that PVSC would have power during another extreme weather event, and that they wouldn't lose power and then flood the surrounding area again, right? And as there are alternatives to backup power, right, so that there's sufficient energy during another, God forbid, another disaster, there are alternative solutions like storing solar energy in batteries, for example. PBSC is actually proposing to build a fourth gas plant for backup power. If this is successful, that would mean that that's a fourth power plant in the Ironbound alone. So I asked all of us to picture Newark, right? So that's four possible power plants in one neighborhood, in one city, in one state in the country. That's frankly absurd for people to be exposed to four polluting power plants. And PBSC and other polluting facilities are actually hosted in what's called a chemical corridor, and it has the name means a lot, right? It's a reason. That area is just filled with toxins, and so ICC is actively challenging this proposal. So we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So you'll see on the left picture where the Ironbound is delineated by blue, right? And then you see in yellow where the fourth power plant is proposed to be built. So the Ironbound, again, is just fully surrounded by industry. So as we challenge things that affect our community's health and livelihoods and well-being, we also envision, right? At ICC, we ask ourselves, how do we improve energy efficiency, climate resilience, disaster preparedness in a way that centers the community without sacrificing our health and our air? And ICC, we developed a visionary solution that is ready to go. It's a community-centered mobile microgrid. And in the right picture, you would see where the grid would go, the mobile microgrid would go. It would be in this parking lot right next to the green and brown that you see is ICC's community garden. Next slide, please. So how would this microgrid work? We've named it Enhancing Community Resilience with Microgrid Technology, and it would seek to reduce industrial pollution in a very real and tangible way. This project would decrease the amount of power generated in peak demand times, and of course would enhance community resilience by providing energy during emergencies, power outages, and extreme weather events. So this microgrid would be composed of three elements: a solar photovoltaic system, battery storage system, and an electric vehicle station for community transportation. And the mobile grid would really serve multiple purposes, right? Reducing reliance on fossil fuels for energy, lowering greenhouse gas emissions, which we know that all these industrial polluting facilities around the Ironbound are emitting. We would improve our local air quality and support long-term community energy resilience. So the grid would be powered by solar panels and battery energy storage systems. And the mobility of it is that the battery storage system would actually be located in the lot that we showed you, and they would be able to be transported. And we would, of course, also have this electric vehicle charging station to support sustainable transportation options within the neighborhood, right? So that we're also working on community resilience and transition to clean energy. So the mobile microgrid would actually help to respond to disasters by establishing 3 community resilience hubs, and these would be ICC locations. And these would be equipped to receive that energy that's stored in the mobile battery units during emergencies, so that we would have reliable energy if the grid were to go down. And so each resilience hub would be just ready to go to support community in the case of an outage or some extreme weather event. Next slide, please. And so here's just a visual representation of how that would look. So on the bottom, we see the 3 resilience hubs, and we have the solar panels installed on the roofs. We have the 3 battery storage systems. We would have the electric vehicle charging station, and of course, we would have solar panels that would be able to, with significant kilowatt storage. And we can stay here, sorry. So ICC was very much ready to launch this mobile microgrid and, again, transform the energy infrastructure in the Ironbound. we were hoping to start cutting away at this chemical corridor, right, until it ceases to exist. We wanted to demonstrate that not only is this very feasible, but this is a way that climate resilience can really be that, a community-centered approach to disaster preparedness and a transition to clean and reliable energy. This project was funded by the EPA. Unfortunately, the grant was terminated before we could even start. And the grant's termination delays ICC's ability to lower fossil fuel emissions, to improve air quality, bolster disaster preparedness, and ensure a reliable power source for our community. But ICC does not recoil in the face of setbacks. This project is absolutely ready to go. We already have our project manager who has an engineering background on our team. We've identified stakeholders and community partners, community members who would support the development of this, and that would go towards workforce development and maintaining the grid. And we identified the team members that we would need to ensure the longevity of the project. So right now we are seeking funding, new funding sources to make this a reality. And we're also taking this moment to reflect and refine our strategies while always centering our community, the Ironbound. So to conclude, our story is far from over. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Alejandra, for that. That was a very interesting project. Like it really, I think the fact that it's community centered, it addresses some of the challenges around fossil fuel infrastructure and power plants, but at the same time, it's really an opportunity for that community members took to really, take an opportunity to really find solutions, right? Like that's really, I thought, really thorough. So. We're going to just go ahead and start with questions and answers. And what we're planning to do is folks want to take the opportunity to put their questions in the chat. And then in the meantime, while we're waiting for folks to kind of sort through the questions, we have Jon, Kweli, and Alejandra that are available. So kind of going back for this is for all three of you. Is there anything that you think is important about any set projects that you think it's important for the folks on here or anybody who would watch a recording and then general public that's important to really be able to highlight and showcase?
Why don't we go to Alejandra first, and then we can go to the other.
Actually going to ask James if he was able to repeat the question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear it. Is there anything about the project that you want to kind of continue to amplify and showcase that's important for folks on here and in the public to really know about it?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I appreciate that. So I kind of want to answer your question via the question you posed to Jon earlier about how much this would cost. So if we did our full community resilience vision, right, in the way that I laid out, that would be about $19 million, which is a lot of money. However, there are ways that we can, let's say, do interim steps so that we're able to start achieving our goals in a way that perhaps is less costly while still honoring our vision. And so there are ways to do this in a way that would cost like 9 million or 12 million, and it would simply be downsizing from 3 community resilience hubs to just 2, to just 1, to less battery storage, to less potent solar panels. But all to say that the project can be completed in interim steps, and that's also what we're trying to let folks know, that it's not just like a one vision and that's it. We can develop it in a way that still is able to provide what we need, which is resilience, support for community during outages, extreme weather events, and also keeping that workforce component so that community members are able to be actively a part of the installation, the maintenance, etc.
Great, thanks. Does either Jon or Kweli want to answer the question, or do we want to move on to the questions in the chat?
I thought of something to say to that. One thing that I learned during our project, which focused on flooding also, is um, that it's better to think about trying to flood safely rather than trying to prevent flooding altogether. That flooding is a natural phenomenon, that the landscape was made to drain water to the rivers, that we've paved over much of the natural environment that served as a buffer between waterways and the higher elevations, and that other parts of the world have learned to live, how to construct their built environment so that flooding can occur safely and has a minimal impact. And I think that's the point of view that we need to take in the worst flood affected communities. And the other thing that I thought of is that um, one real benefit that I think that our project brought to the city is we shed light on uh, really the extent of the flooding issue with a lot of information. The computer model that we developed is unique. But it's something that really should be developed for all parts of the country, basically, that experience flooding. They should have a team of engineers that crunch the numbers, look at the landscape, and comes up with a sophisticated tool that can be used for development so that we're not fruitlessly developing economically expensive projects without thinking about how flooding will impact those projects in the future. And that we're also missing low cost opportunities for how we can protect existing vulnerable communities with relatively low cost projects that are often win-win, or projects that will get built anyway if we have the information. And the problem is we haven't invested in studying the problem to the extent that we should have.
Thanks for that, John. Kweli, was there any remarks regarding?
No, I echo, the sentiments of my co-panelists, but I would also just add the equity component, right? Because for me, looking, to my South Orange neighbors and seeing how they're handling things, and then realizing, oh, just because I live in Orange, which, literally blocks away, some of the same things can happen in my township just because of, borders of whatever. Is kind of appalling, and it doesn't make sense. And so, I really kind of just want to kind of like focus on an equity lens in this work, and why, why do the overburdened communities have to fight, you know, when we know the issues exist in these communities? Why can't, why can't my community look like the community that's blocks away? That's it. Sorry.
Good, thank you, thank you. So, moving forward, Joe, do we have any
We have
questions?
one question from Brianna in the chat. Brianna, if you want to ask your question out loud and you're available to do so, you certainly can. Otherwise, I can read it for you. If you want, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll unmute you and bring you up on stage here. Or you can say no thanks in the chat, and we'll just read it out loud. All right. In the interest of time, I'm just going to go ahead and read it out loud. That's okay, Brianna. So she says, hello, I'm a Newark resident and an MSW student from Rutgers, New Brunswick, and I'm attending this webinar to help complete a paper I'm writing on environmental justice. I'd like to ask all of your opinions on how social workers, students, or community members can support EJ efforts in a way that avoid performative allyship and actually meet community needs. Kweli, we'll start with you, then we can go to John and Alejandra.
Yeah, that's a great question. I am a community resident. I, fell into this work because all I wanted to see was my local park, have an operable basketball court, a playground. I came to Orange during COVID, where open space was very important. And so as a result of, me discovering this beautiful space, being a part of my community, We just started volunteering efforts. And so I would say, as I say to, the people that I live amongst, we have to raise our voices. We have to, speak up. We have to, say what's wrong, what's needed, demand equity and fairness and, environmental justice and, everything else that goes along with it, because we know that term is very broad. We have to fight and advocate and back each other up and collaborate. I am thankful for, the panelists here and their efforts here and what they, have done in their community. I think in some instances it is a matter of copy, paste, and repeat. And if that's necessary, then, I need to pull on them for, their experiences and their, the work that they've done and see how that can be replicated in my own community. I think we just need to collaborate and raise our voices collaboratively.
Jon, why don't you take it from here?
I also think it's a good question. Think it's hard to answer. I think you just have to use your judgment. If you're an outsider and you want to be supportive of work like what you've heard about today, then I think you just have to use your judgment. And there are good projects out there, and there's not as good projects out there. And as an outsider, it can sometimes be hard to tell the difference between them. And so I think the issue of is our efforts performative or not? Sometimes it's hard to tell. But just do your best. I think there is a lot of good work that is very community centered that is going on out there. But I think if you just keep in mind the goal that all communities, even environmental justice or overburdened or poor communities or communities of color, they all deserve to have equal attention from government and for development, and that they should all have a say in what their communities look like. And anything that moves towards that is good, and anything that pretends to do that is not good.
It's an excellent question, Brianna. So I think one way to avoid performative allyship is to, if there's an organization that interests you, say ICC or CFAT or Kweli's org, like you need to see if there are events going on, if there are community meetings, and attend them. And don't attend them just for a project you may have or something, some requirement you may have for work or school. Be consistently showing up. That demonstrates that you deeply care about the work, and it's not just like a parachuting in and out, which sometimes happens, even if that's not your intention. So being consistent so that the organizers, the community sees that they can trust you. And then bring forth what you can contribute. So if you're a social worker and you know that your experience is working with vulnerable communities, that you might have a background in health, say, bring that forward, because we might need your support and going out to the community and explaining, what does PM 2.5 mean? What do carbon emissions mean? Maybe you could be the person to help transmit that information to your clients or the folks with whom you work in a way that's more accessible, so that people understand why is it that we're fighting a power plant. If you're a student, perhaps you can offer your research. A lot of these NGOs have limited capacity in terms of staff and resources, right? And so maybe you are writing a paper, but your research can fulfill your academic requirement and can also support the community. So you might reach out and say, and just gauge folks' interest. Like, for example, we have a lot of research questions that we don't have the time to fully develop memos and, long essays on. Perhaps you can offer that. And as community members, I think, again, a lot of organizations will have community meetings so folks can show up. Sometimes there are calls to go to the a city council meeting or a planning board meeting or a zoning board meeting or some protest. And maybe you're not able to go to every single monthly community organized meeting, but you are able to show up to a hearing. And if you don't have much to say because you're still learning, show up with active listening ears, so that next time, if there is a call to show up and speak on an issue, you would feel much more empowered to do so. So those are just some examples that come to mind, but I appreciate the thoughtfulness of your question.
Great. Thank you, Alejandra. So John, just let me know we have about 10 minutes left. I don't know that John, are there any, Joe, I'm sorry, calling you John. Joe, are there any other questions that are in the chat or for anyone else?
I don't see anything in the chat. I have one if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, you know, a lot of the folks that we try to bring to the table at the Center for Cooperative Media are local community, ethnic media reporters and journalists. Can I wonder, Alejandra, can you talk a little bit about the relationship with local media, not, you know, the big timers, you know, but the relationship between like in language, diaspora media, you know, community startups and local journalists like that? And how can journalists do a better job of reframing, of focusing, and of highlighting and working with the communities to tell those stories to actually, you know, have an impact? Where are you seeing areas for improvement?
I'll try to be brief. That's super important, right? Especially because it might be hard for someone like an elder in our community to go on social media and understand what is it that we're asking folks. Maybe they still have traditional newspapers. A lot of our community, as I mentioned, are immigrants, so their English may not be, you know, top notch, and so they need to be able to access information in a language they understand, and not just like literally Spanish or Portuguese, but in accessible terms, right? Not jargony language, but very clear. And so it's important for the media to work with community organizations to be able to distribute that knowledge and calls to action to local folks. Ways to be better, perhaps. If you see that, follow us on socials, connect with us, see if we have calls to action to go to a hearing of some sort. Show up and talk to the community members who testify. And if someone didn't testify, but they give you their consent to be interviewed, hear directly community concerns as opposed to just maybe repeating what it is that the developer is presenting.
Thank you. Any John or Kweli, same question. You know, what can local media do to do a better job of working with you? What does building trust look like? You can answer any of those. I just want to hear a little bit more about the role of local community and ethnic media in the work that you do and in what you see a successful project looks like in relationship with them. But I can unmute you if you want. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, I appreciate Alexandra bringing focus to you know, other languages and other ethnicities. You know, as Orange is a community of many, including, you know, our Creole, Haitian Creole, and Latin community, the heavy Latin community. And so I do appreciate any translation, you know, that the media can do, and also focus how it impacts, you know, diverse communities. I also would appreciate if we could do deeper dives into topics that, you know, are not discussed in you know, my community. So we talk about PFAS and water. That's a very, you know, heavy topic to digest. And so if you know, media, local media, could really sort of, you know, break it down and make it digestible and really, you know, help the community understand, you know, the tie, you know, the buy-in, the tie-in to community residents, that would be great as well. This year we learned about something called historic fill, and you know, when we heard it, we didn't know what it was, but it keeps coming up in our community. And so if they could, you know, help with breaking down these terms that, you know, are heavy when you hear it, that would be great.
John, same question. And then we have a question in the chat from Oni Evancula.
I think I'll just say from our perspective in Camden that we don't have a lot of local media covering local events in Camden, so we're just always grateful when we get the opportunity for some more in-depth coverage about any issue that relates to the environment.
Awesome. Okay, we have a question from Oni. It says, to follow up on Joe's questions, In your experience, are the city's warning systems and emergency evacuation plans fully accessible and effective for all communities, including non-English speakers and those without access to reliable technological digital internet phone services, particularly flash floods? No need to address this if you're answering in real time. I'm typing my question. Okay, awesome. So again, let's go back to Alejandro and then Kweli and then Jon, if you have it. And then that should pretty much do it for the time we have.
Just say I think there's always room for improvement in making things more accessible and timely. To answer your question, I also wanted to quickly, I forgot to mention the importance of working with local media. I see a reporter who's a Newark reporter who's on the call. Thank you so much, Nicole, for being here. And so we've been developing a relationship with her. And I think it's also important to report on things that maybe seem insignificant, but can actually be huge wins. Like if we were able to delay a developer's application, that's major. And being able to do that is important for multiple reasons, but I'll highlight two. Visibilizing the small victories and showing the power of community organizing. So if someone were to read that article and then they say, oh, now I understand why there's a call to action, maybe I'll show up to the other one because actually there is hope. And I think there's a lot of value in that, and the media helps amplify that.
Awesome. Kweli? I unmuted you.
Oh, sorry. What question am I responding to? I'm
So
sorry.
just what's the state of like public information about emergency evacuation plans and the accessibility for non-English speakers, people with low technology or bandwidth access, things like that? Like,
Yeah, I'm not sure that even exists. I mean, we have text that comes from our city administrators, but it's not real time. It's not. It's yeah. Sorry, I'm not sure that it exists.
not unexpected, but and fair as well. So that's totally fair. Jon, bring us home.
It seems like an area of improvement that's needed in our city on our experience.
Short and sweet. Love it. James, over to you.
Thank you, Joe, for handling the questions. Before I close in closing, I'm just trying to be really brief. So kind of going back to the reason why we're here, right? Like we are faced with a lot of challenges and deficits around making sure that resilience projects, community-driven resilience projects, not only in environmental justice communities, but communities more broadly, have ways to be able to pay for and fund different projects. The one thing that I mentioned before, climate change is real. Communities are finding ways to adapt. Like I mentioned before, the Climate Superfund Act, which is a bill that's in the New Jersey legislature at this time period, would yield about $50 billion over 20 years. Those dollars, a strong portion of those dollars will go towards climate resilience projects, making sure that communities have an opportunity to shape what mitigation and what it looks like in their own communities, and holding polluters accountable for the effects of climate change. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for attending, for everyone for coming. Jon, thank you from Center for Environmental Transformation. Alejandra, thank you for Ironbound Community Corporation. Kweli, thank you from Friends of Metcalf Park. Melissa Miles, thank you as well for being a part of this and participating. The Center for Cooperative Media, thank you very much for doing this again. And for all of you who've attended, thank you very much. Have a good evening. A good afternoon.
Thanks, everybody. You'll send out a recording, transcript, and resources from today's session. Thank you, guys. Have a great day and a great week.